Welcome back. Don't have much available at the Dog Bowl food truck today, but Pyro went ahead and popped in another order for me. So let me get that off to the side and ready for him. There we go. Now, as I recall, last time we were in the middle of what essentially is like a spooky, scary, haunted escape room series. Something about the history of James and Carl's family, and where we just last left off, Chase and me had gotten jump scared by, I guess, a creepy ghost fox, like Native American type thing, because I guess this is a sort of like, I don't like labeling things like Romani curses or Indian curses or whatever. It feels, I don't know, I feel like that's one of those areas where it's like, there's a lot to be said back and forth on whether or not that's racist, but again, I'm not here to talk politics. I'm here to talk love, acceptance. Well, what's the saying? Love, peace, and chicken grease? Something like that. So let's go back into it. My vocal cords start working at the same time, and I let out a scream as I fall backwards. Oh no. Chase, how many times have you fallen in like the last 24 hours, my dude? I land on the wooden floor with a loud thud that shakes the pots and pans on the shelves. The room spins, and I feel like I'm coming right out of a dream, like I'd been sleeping for ages. The next thing I know is that I'm surrounded by the three faces of my friends, all looking down at me. Carl grabs me under the arms and pulls me into a sitting position, his face worried, but there's something else too. Anger? What happened? I'm startled by the abruptness, and I stammer through an answer. I, I it was a face out the window. What did it say? Carl, what are you doing? Raven reproaches the ram gently, his ears falling. Carl glances at the husky, then at Jenna, who's been silent so far, then back at me, slowly letting go. Sorry. I was just worried about you. What did you see? Did it say anything? It takes me a moment to find my voice. Uh, no, it didn't say anything. It just laughed. What did it look like? Uh, a fox, maybe. Headband over his head? Carl's eyes narrow. Hey, I found something! We all look up at Raven as he holds up a white piece of paper. What is that? Carl stands up, staring hard at the paper in Raven's hand. I don't know. Looks like a photocopy of a newspaper. Let's see. Raven turns it toward the candle sitting on the desk. Jenna stands behind him. Masetta boy missing after. Oh! Raven flinches back as the paper catches fire, illuminating the entire cabin room. Our shadows dance across the log walls. The paper, which Raven had dropped, flutters to the floor, a tongue of angry flame eating it up completely before it hits the floor. We all stare at the smoldering flake of ash on the ground. Raven, are you kidding me? What? I wasn't even that close to the candle. That might have been what we needed. But I. Raven stares at his hands, looking forlornly between them and the candle, which seems to flicker innocently on the table. I rest my face in my hands. Well, what do we do now? He wasn't near the candle. I pull my head out of my hands, not because of what Jenna said, but because of the way she said it. Huh? I've got a side angle here. You were at least 2 feet away. There's a brief silence. Jenna, what are you talking about? I don't know, Carl. What am I talking about? Jenna turns to the ram, eyes narrowed, teeth just slightly bared. I look at Carl. He's frowning, a concerned look on his face. Jenna, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm saying there's no way that candle burned that paper. Carl's concerned expression deepens, but there's also a hint of condescension there. What else could have done it, Jenna? This time the silence is heavy. I'm baffled by the interactions they've been having so far, and judging by the look on Raven's face, so is he. Hey, guys, I'm sorry I burned it, but maybe we can figure something out from the title. Meseta Boy Missing? I look at Jenna. Oh yeah, Meseta, isn't that your tribe, or... Yep. I feel my face flush as I wonder if I'm being insensitive, like I think she knows everyone from the tribe. But what does that mean? A lot of people go missing out here. Well, it would have something to do with James, right? How do we know that? I look at Carl. Are you okay, man? You've been acting really weird ever since we got here. I think we're all acting a little different after getting here, don't you think? Carl glances at Jenna. Are we fighting again? Staring at the ash on the grounds, something I should have realized earlier suddenly hits me. Wait a minute. That newspaper, it kind of looked like something that came out of the crawlspace tubs. What do you mean? I was looking through some of the artifacts that Carl's family saved from way back when for that project I was doing. It seems like years ago at this point. Really, it fucking does. Like, how many parts are we in? Hold on, I'm gonna check that. Yeah, this is gonna be part 21, and if each part is about 30 minutes long, jeez. Huh, and to think some people are sitting here listening to me after all this time. I really do love you all. I snap my fingers. And some of the stuff was missing from it, like pages ripped out from Carl's mom's notes that had photocopies of old newspapers. So was that just a clipping from the notes? Maybe, I don't know. But John was native, so maybe it has to do with him. I think back to the small fox I saw through the window, the band across his forehead. Was that John? So the ghost just ripped out the pages to show you in this nightmare world. Why didn't he just point them out to you in the real world? I don't really have an answer for that. Then we wouldn't have to be going through this shit right now. Ghost rolls? Raven shrugs. And what if that was our key out of here? Well, they can't just leave us here, right? We don't know anything about where we are or what these things are capable of. So what now? Just sit around and wait for something else to happen? Carl suddenly sighs. Well, I'm gonna look around some more. You guys do whatever you want. Again, I'm taken aback by Carl's demeanor. I've never seen him act like this before. It's like he's a different person. Without another word, he turns on his hoof and walks away. Over the next several hours, we search the cabin from top to bottom. I hobble around on the ground floor, careful not to look out the window, even when the drumming starts up again at a few points. I check all the shelves under the chairs, tables, and the stove, in the pantry between the cracks in the floorboard and walls. We don't find anything. At some point, I almost topple over from dozing off, and that's when we call off the search. There's some discussion as to where we should sleep. If we should do it in shifts. Jenna suggests she stay up downstairs while the rest of us sleep, just in case something else happens. Carl suggests that I sleep in the bed upstairs because of my leg, and I have to agree with him. Raven stays downstairs with Jenna, making himself comfortable on one of the chairs. As Carl hobbles up the stairs with me on his back, Jenna watches us the whole way. I sit on the bed, watching as Carl moves about the room, looking behind shelves and under the bed. Okay, so quick pause from the story here. There's there's a lot of contention around the characters I'm aware of. Everybody seems to generally agree that while other characters might have negative qualities or negative traits to them, there are two characters in particular that people seem to absolutely almost froth at the mouth over. And that's Leo and Jenna. So, Leo, I don't have context. I know some shit goes down, and things can end up very badly. But I don't have context. But with Jenna, I don't know. Honestly, if I'm gonna be real with you, I think. Well, also Chase. Everybody, like, the whole joke of chunt. Like, when I first heard that, I thought it was a combination of his first and last name, Chase Hunter, Chunt. Then I realized, oh, it's Chase and Cunt. So, Chunt. So, I I also kind of agree to some regard, but at the same time, it's a guy, everybody in here is being put in an exceptional situation. And I have a small theory why people find Jenna particularly contentious, and that's because she acts like Chase. She's quiet, observing, constantly thinking. Meaning that the few times that she does speak, it's almost implied that she has had time to think about and choose her words. Meaning that whenever she says something that's very pointed, it's something that's premeditated. And if I'm going to play devil's advocate here for a moment, I think it's mainly she's just as reactionary as everybody else in the story. So while I do agree that as somebody who's studying psychology and trying to go to graduate school for psychology, she should know better. It's one of those moments of with great power comes great big booty bitches. So it's like, yeah, and I've seen the fan art. I know exactly how fat all them cheeks are. I mean, seriously, you can see it even without the fan art. Look at all these wonderful sprites. They got big chubby cheeks. But what I'm getting at is that it feels like she has more, not authority, not power, but not context, but she has more footing. She has more stable ground. And so for her to say and do some of the things that she says and does makes her come off as a lot more of a bitch than other characters would, in other circumstances. Like an easy example would be at the birthday party when she takes the blunt out of Carl's mouth and flicks it in his face. I don't think people would have thought twice if Flynn had done that. If TJ would have done that, it would have been such a giant shock that nobody would have known what to think. If Chase had done that, it would just compound the chunt. And if Leo had done that, then that would be just so bizarrely out of character for him that people would have to think in a similar vein of TJ. So it's just that one example in particular, it just seems like it's colored by who did it. It's very colored by who did it, which I guess is another moment where I'm going to gratefully fillet the authors and creators of this thing, because it's that level of characterization where there are these double standards within the community and within the reader that are double standards, but they're deemed as acceptable due to who it's coming from. And I just think that's great. I just think that's great. But let's continue on and let's see who's gonna. Whose blood shall wet that knife? Carl, I hate to ask again, but are you okay? Uh, he looks back at me. Yeah, I'm fine. I just want to make sure everything is safe for you. Thanks, it's just that you seem different, I guess. Carl looks at the ceiling, seemingly thinking. It's difficult to make him out in the darkness. Just like when he had a sheet over his head, I get the weird feeling that who I'm talking to might not be Carl. I think it's just that this has made me grow up. I realize now how useless I've been. This is sort of an opportunity for me to actually do something. Help people, you know? Yeah. And this is another thing that I pointed out is that all the characters in this story are so young. The oldest person that's like a vital to the story, I believe, is Leo, and he's only like 3 years older than everybody else. So it's fascinating to me that these are all like early to mid 20s people. So it really does feel like an almost sort of coming of age story, or what do they call it, the warrior story? I forget the thing, but it's part of that argument of like, oh, every story has already been ever told and can be categorized into like one of 13 stories or something like that. And it feels like Carl neatly fits into one of those in terms of the person, the warrior who throughout his entire life has rejected the call to adventure, has done everything he could to, be uh just be stationary and not have to be challenged properly. But now that he has been challenged, and oh, okay. Later, Pyro. Thanks for stopping by. But now that he is being properly challenged, he is rising to meet it. Either that, or there really is some sort of partial possession going on here. Eh, I I don't know. Let's keep going though. It sounds nice, but I can't get rid of the nagging feeling that something is off. It's in the way he talks, the way he moves, right down to his facial expressions. I swing my legs gingerly onto the bed and lay back. Carl comes over to sit on the other side. Gonna sleep here too? Yeah. You need me to get around, so I'm gonna be by your side as much as possible. Alright. Thanks. As we lay awkwardly on our backs for a moment, Carl suddenly turns on his side and pulls me into his chest. Aww. I'm surprised and turn instinctively so that he's spooning me. Aww. I guess it makes sense, after our semi-confession back in the mansion. He nuzzles my neck, but again, the action is weirdly unnatural. Even with his big, warm body next to mine, it takes me a long time to fall asleep. I open my eyes, and blearily I can make out the dark cabin room. My heart sinks again at realizing where I am at, but it's more subdued this time. Guess I'm getting used to my new life. Oh, I've written those exact words in RP so many times. Ooh, don't tell anyone. Ooh. My mouth is dry, very dry, and I feel like I need to find water or I'm not going back to sleep. I sit up. Carl's moved back to his side of the bed at this point, laying on his back, snoring. Quietly, I get out of bed, wincing at how creaky the floorboards are. I make my way down the stairs, eyes adjusted to the point where I can barely make out the ledges. When I reach the ground level, I see that Raven is splayed out on the carpet, snoring as well. I shake my head before moving to the kitchen. Jenna isn't there. And I wonder where she might be at. Yeah, this doesn't sound like it's a big place. Sounds like a 2-story pioneer house. So, was she in that other room upstairs? Maybe I just missed her when I was distracted by Raven. Looking around, I see a small cup sitting on the table. I'm almost positive it hasn't been there before, but maybe Raven or Jenna had set it there. Walking over to it, I'm relieved that it's filled with what looks like water. I pick it up and sniff at it, not really getting a hint of anything. Tentatively, I take a sip. And immediately spit it out. It's salty, putrid. It tastes like... I jump and some of the liquid splashes on the floor. Gingerly, I set down the cup, looking into the opposite room. Everything is still in the other room. I can't even hear Raven snoring anymore. Oh, God. This time I see the wardrobe move, the door specifically. I stare wide-eyed. Everything falls still again, but I don't dare move. Jenna? I whisper loudly. It wouldn't make any sense. Why she'd be in there, but who else would it be? Ghosts. Of course. I'm about to take a step forward toward the stairs, or at least to wake Raven up, but that's when the small door cracks open. I freeze, all of the fur on my body standing up. James. Words die on my tongue as something long and black slides out from behind the door. It dips down towards the ground, and only then does it vaguely take the shape of a foot. Another long black tendril follows, slightly ahead of the first one. When it touches the ground, it takes the shape of a hand resting flat on the wooden floor. I choke and start to try and back away, but then the door explodes open, and I'm just barely able to make out a galloping black shape before it engulfs me. I collapse back onto the ground, twisting, trying to scream, but the thing is completely covering, smothering me. I choke and gag. I feel like I'm being suffocated, my arms pinned to the sides, my legs rigid. As I try to yank away from the thing, it feels like something is freed from my mouth and I'm able to scream. Help! Get it off me! Help! Jace! The surface underneath me becomes soft. The thing on top of me warm. Through bleary eyes, I look up at Carl, just able to make out the curve of his horns. Carl? I hear movement at the doorway, and I glance in that direction to find Jenna standing there, hackles raised, teeth bared. Jenna? Before I know exactly what is going on, Jenna sprints across the room and jumps on the bed. Carl doesn't even have time to turn around before she snatches him up by the horns and yanks his head back violently. The ram lets out a choking sound as he's dragged back and thrown to the floor. Jenna jumps off the bed after him. From the sound of it, she lands on him. What follows is a series of thuds and smacks. Weakly, I pull myself to the foot of the bed, still completely disoriented. I knew it! You motherfucking piece of shit! What I see is Jenna sitting on Carl's back, swinging her fist into his head while the ram tries to cover up. You haven't changed at all! Jenna, stop! I roll out of bed, confused as to why I'm so weak. Pain shoots at my leg again, but this time I barely notice it. There's something about Jenna, something big and black, like a shadow, making her look much bigger than she actually is. Her fists swing and hit Carl with a force I didn't think she was capable of. Then she grabs Carl by the horns again and yanks back before slamming his face back into the floor. Jenna! I lunge forward, trying to put myself between the two of them. Underneath me, Carl has gone limp. Just like Jenna, there's something black and shadowy around him as well, but it's fading, moving away. Jenna's still trying to get at Carl, reaching around me and snarling in my ear, a sound that makes my fur stand on end. Then she's gone. I look to my left and see Jenna being drawn back by Raven, his eyes wide with shock. What are you doing? Jenna struggles in the husky's grasp. I saw him! He was trying to fuck the otter! The otter? Jenna, stop! He was helping me! Raven continues to try and pull Jenna towards the door, but she continues to struggle. I was having a nightmare! Jenna's struggling, losing some of its vigor, but she continues to snarl in Carl's direction. Raven! Please let go of her. The shadow around Jenna seems to shrink, and her face shows some doubt as she stares at the crumpled form of Carl. After a moment, she seems to let the husky lead her from the room, and I hear some soothing tones from Raven as he leads her down the stairs. I turn back to Carl, who has his arms around his head, face still buried in the ground. After a while, I see his shoulders heaving with sobs. Gently, I pull one of his arms back, and he looks up at me. This time, I recognize his face. I sit next to Carl on the bed, mopping up his face with his bloodied button-up shirt. He sits there silently, looking at his hands while I work. At least nothing's broken. Oh, sprite change. Let's have a look at him. Jeez, yeah, she must have got him good. Dude, what happened? I'm not sure if he's talking about what happened with Jenna or just everything. I've been asking that same question since we got here. He looks at his hands again. I felt different. I sit back and look him over, satisfied with having cleaned up most of his face. You were acting different too. Like, I felt like I knew everything. I knew what I was doing. You were acting really confident. I agree and set his bloody shirt off to the side. When I look back at him, he seems so sad and beaten down that I have to hug him. Dude, you're gonna make me start crying again. His voice cracks, but he hugs back anyway. I'm just glad you're back. I felt like I was talking to a stranger. Carl leans against me and sighs. I don't know if I'm glad, though. It's like I just came down from a huge high. I rub his shoulders for a while before I venture forward with my guess. Was it James? I don't know. Maybe. Carl looks at his hands again, like he's questioning if they're even his. I just felt like I knew what I wanted, and when things didn't go the way I thought they would, I'd get really pissed. He's silent for a while, I imagine contemplating what he'd just have gone through. Jenna isn't really acting like herself either. Carl looks up at that. Yeah, I felt like whatever was in me, whatever it is, really hates what Jenna is doing. For some reason. Carl looks around at the room, scanning it with his dark green eyes. I feel like all of this is some kind of mental fight between James and whatever else is fighting against him. Huh. Okay. So yeah, I was kind of wondering about that. If James... Yeah, okay. So... we have the mountain range of Casa El Demonio, and then we have... we have the mountain range of Casa El Demonio, we have the ghost of an ancient family member, and a Native American stand-in who was hanged for sodomy. And now we're in a ghost dimension where that ancient family member is trying to help us, allegedly, but he's doing it in such a way that it just doesn't make sense. And now we've got these weird things, like it... And then on top of that, there's this underlying continuous theme of Carl becoming someone else. At first I thought it was kind of maybe a rise to the occasion warrior trope, but now I realize that, yeah, no, this kind of is about not so much about rising to the occasion, but about maintaining your identity, I guess. Being you. And I guess there's really nothing more important in this world, realistically, than you being who you are. And Carl has struggled with that a lot, where he does not like who he is. And... huh. I'm gonna have to think about that for a bit. But for now, I'm gonna go ahead and have to see you guys in the next one. Have a good night, guys.